If the goal of unattachment and letting go of the ego is to better one's own life, whether to improve happiness, peace, or something like that, aren't we just replacing one ego trap with another? Isn't the goal still selfish? So it's a great question, and you know, one of the things that I love is when we really have the courage to look at things like this, because it's really easy to take spiritual injunctions and spiritual teachings, especially things that are as broad and common and profound and important as go on a path of self-discovery, go on a path for enlightenment, and ask yourself, well, okay, but are we sure? Are we sure that that's not just another trap of the ego? So here's where the answer lies. And yes, it isn't just another trap for the ego, but as the questioner asked it with sincerity, I assume, we should look at it with sincerity. And really the distinction lies in what we're identifying as self. So the material stuff that I think is going to make me happier, that I think is going to bring me peace, is things for my lowercase s self, things for my very temporary, finite self, things for the physical self. When most of us think of the physical body, we tend to think neck down. Or if you think neck up, it's things like my hair, or, my teeth, or my makeup. But when we really look at the physical body, as I've been emphasizing the last few nights, it includes the brain/mind. The seat of emotion, thought, reaction is a very complex network of neurons. It's matter. It's physical matter. Yes, it's energy also. It's electricity also. It's chemical also. But in the matter versus spirit, or matter compared to spirit, it definitely falls on the matter side of the spectrum. It's definitely physical body rather than soul. So when we're looking at lowercase s self, it includes the body, and it includes my physical brain, which has been habituated over the course of my life due to what we call sanskaras, or neuronal patterns. Either way, it doesn't matter. We're talking about the same stuff. Has been patterned to want things. It has been patterned to feel empty, or if not entirely empty, then at least less than full. Wanting of something. Whether we want something from outside, I want that job, I want that house, I want to look like that, I want that spouse. Or whether we want something of ourselves. I want to be smarter. I want to be more beautiful. I want to be funnier. I want to be more confident. I want all of these other things that are a step deeper than I want the house and the car. But nonetheless, they too fall in the category of I'm less than full. So if I'm doing anything that's meant to pad, assuage my lowercase s self, something that I I've got a desire to eat pizza, I eat pizza. Okay, nothing wrong with the pizza in and of itself. But what I've just engaged in is a behavior to assuage a desire that my physical self is having, whether it's coming actually from my stomach, I'm starving, or whether it's coming from my brain because eating pizza is fun and I'm bored, and the last time I ate pizza, I had such a good time, and so really what I'm longing is friends and connection and enjoyment rather than actually food. Either way, that urge has come from physical, temporary, this intersection of time and space self. And eating it is fulfilling lowercase s self, temporary, finite, this intersection of time and space self. When we speak about selfishness on that level, it's, normally when people colloquially say you're so selfish, it means you don't care about other people. You're not generous, you're not helpful. But really what it means is you're focused on this lowercase s self. And it's not always at the exclusion of others. The ego is actually very, very cunning, and it loves to do things like volunteer work. Why? So you feel like a better person. Okay, again, nothing wrong with it. Whatever the motivation for getting into things is, nothing wrong with it. And particularly if it's taking you into something that's good for others. But when we're really deep and ruthless in our honesty with ourselves, a lot of the things that we do for others, whether it's for others we don't know, we're doing volunteer work at some company that's, or some organization that's benefiting people we'll never see, or whether it's doing something for our loved ones, under the guise of being selfless, when actually what I'm wanting is something from you in return, even if it's just for you to say thank you. Even if it's just for you to love me more. It's still selfish. Now remember, we're not judging. We're not going good and bad. We're simply calling it what it is, with no judgment, simply witnessing. I've cooked you dinner. When I'm ruthlessly honest with myself, have I done it only for you? Or have I done it because what I'm really looking forward to is that look on your face when you see what I've cooked you and you love it and you take me in your arms and you say, oh honey, thank you, I love you, you're the best. Now, that's neither good nor bad. Remember, we're not judging, we're not criticizing. So many of us are used to this selfish as bad. Share your cookies, don't be selfish, you're bad. We're moving beyond that. We're not labeling, we're simply witnessing. So even things like that are theoretically done for others, if my physical body, brain, mind is looking for something from it, then it's selfish. Simply meaning that it is in service of my lowercase s self, which A, wants a new sweater and a new pair of shoes for the winter, B, wants a new pair of earrings, C, wants a better job, D, wants to be loved, E, wants to have friends and feel connected, F, wants to feel successful and beautiful. So whether it's shoes or love or anything in between, it's the need of a being that feels less than full already. Okay? When we look spiritually then at the path of meditation, our spiritual practice, we're going for spiritual awakening, self-discovery, enlightenment, nirvana, moksha, whatever word we use. Is that selfish? Well, not lowercase s selfish. It's capital S selfish. Again, remember we're not judging. Yeah, it is selfish, but it's capital S selfish, which is in service of my higher self. So I'm not padding the physical body, I'm not padding the ego, I'm not responding to desires that come from my neuronal networks or my stomach or my sexual organs. I'm responding to the call of my soul, which is to re-experience itself as infinite, as expansive, as one with all. So when we allow ourselves to remove labels of good and bad, it makes things a lot easier to understand, because if we go into it with selfish is bad, then yeah, it becomes very confusing. Well, isn't it selfish? Yes, it is selfish. Well, isn't it bad? No, it's not bad. It's exactly perfect. That's the point. The point is, the reason we are here is to experience that capital S self. Now, here's the other interesting aspect in terms of doing for others. When I experience that, when I experience an expansiveness of myself, automatically I serve. And I serve because as myself expands, it doesn't expand into empty space. It expands right over here into Trish, and right over here into the women sitting next to her, and it keeps expanding and expanding into the world around me. As my awareness, as my identification of self expands, and I realize I'm not just this body, but actually I'm connected to all of creation, then yeah, it begins with the people around us, and you're able to look more deeply into people's eyes and have a sense of because you're able to see the self and all. And then slowly it becomes people who aren't necessarily in front of you. People into whose eyes you haven't necessarily been able to look. But the awareness has become so deep that whether you've looked them in the eye, whether you've experienced a moment of oneness with them or not, it doesn't matter, because your experience of oneness with all creation is so profound that you serve. But you don't serve because you're looking for appreciation. You don't serve because you're looking for people to say, oh, that's so, God, you are such a good person. And again, nothing wrong with appreciation. Appreciation is wonderful. Gratitude is a fantastic spiritual practice. But we shouldn't be waiting for it and expecting it. It shouldn't be the thing that drives what we do. Because what that means is until and unless I get the gratitude, I'm still not full. It's still not enough what I've done. And so, as we move and live and make choices in service of our capital S self, choices that are selfish, that self itself expands. Because remember, the capital S self is not limited to this body. It's not limited to my neuronal networks. It's all. And then that's how we start to live, and therefore that's how we start to serve. In the same way that I take care of my own body. If I itch, I'm going to scratch. If I injure one leg, the other leg picks up the extra weight. It's called limping. My stomach growls, I feed it. Well, as I start to experience the world as self, then whether it's trees that are being felled, whether it's rivers that are being polluted, whether it's women dying in childbirth, whether it's children dying of starvation, whatever it is, it's all self. And so selfish, capital S, selfish, becomes lowercase s, selfless. As my self expands, I'm serving and living and working for the full self, which includes